If you like to catch crickets, earthworms, brim, bluegills, or pogies, hardtails, and piggy perch, then listen up, because tonight we're going to teach you how to use your favorite bait to catch bigger fish here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report, and as we head into September, we hope y'all had a fun, safe Labor Day weekend, right, Rick?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, it was a good one. Today we are focusing on bait, and I'm sure, Rick, you can tell us why having the right bait, live or artificial, is really important, right?
Well, Bree, you know, the thing I learned, certainly when I was doing a lot of sailfish tournaments, was that fresh bait is the difference of getting a bite or not. And when I started applying that towards my guide trips, when I would see that I'd have a bait on and it wasn't very active and I would change one out, or you'd catch a fish and then you change out another one, put a fresh one on, boom, how is it that you get a bite one after the other? The key is having that bait, which sends off a lot of vibrations, and it makes it happen for you.
Keeping it fresh. Well, we're keeping it fresh here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report this week because we have Chef Jacqueline with us cooking up something delicious. We're excited about that. But before we get going, let's stop by the CCA workbench to say hi to Dave Ferrell.
How you doing?
You keeping it fresh over there, Dave?
Yes, I am. You know what, though? I had a big bass the other day eat a dead shiner.
Well, that's
floating.
not
That was
fresh,
my
but-
last shiner. He was dead, floating there by the bobber, and a bass came up and ate him off the surface dead.
Well, there's an example for you. Dave's got all the answers.
I know.
All right, the Upper Coast region is starting us off, so Captain Caleb, if you're ready, we're waiting.
I'm ready. Well, hey, you know, talking about bait this week, there's a lot of different options that work great for this region of both inshore around the Galveston Bay Complex. We've got a wide variety of bait camps and marinas.
Did we lose him?
You can buy from, you know, because there's so many. When it comes to inshore fishing, the two most readily available types and most consistent are going to be live shrimp and croakers. When it comes to offshore, our friend Carl Weston says that hardtail, piggy perch, and live shad can't be beaten on a day-to-day basis. And if we got into all the rigging and techniques, it'd take us days to talk about. But the most important is just to keep these baits alive, and then you'll up your odds. And there's a photo there of Carl, of Captain JB, casting in some shad. And then going inshore, you know, when the weather, you know, it really hasn't been too conducive for us this week with all the rain. But if you can catch a break in the storms, the wind hasn't been too terrible to get out in the middle of the bay and get on some trout. Drifting oyster shell and working slicks in the 7 to 9 foot depth off the ship channel towards East Bay has been good, throwing small paddle tail soft plastics on 1/8-ounce jig head. And also fishing the gas wells in the middle of Trinity Bay have been doing good as well, with paddle tails or live shrimp rigged about 3 foot underneath the popping cork. And then switching over to redfish, the redfish action has been good around the mouths of bayous, around the marsh, and along the rocks of the ship channel. Galveston got a ton of rain this week, so with some of that runoff coming out of the marsh, it would be a good plan to look for fish stacked around drains and bayous more than normal. Throwing a gulp rig on a light jig head or a shallow diving crankbait has been the best lure for the redfish guys. And also cracked crab and mullet have been producing redfish, you know, on the jetties as well. And then going offshore, our good friend Carl Weston with Salty Dolphin Charters out of Surfside Marina in Freeport says that the Dorado bite has still been great whenever the weather will allow you to actually get out deep. He says that this year has been one for the books when it comes to Dorado, so just keep your eye out for anything floating, whether it be a weed line, trash, or any kind of debris around a current rip. And I actually found an old floating dinghy the other day and hammered the Dorado around it. And Islanders with Rick Ballyhoo or feathered Mahi Jets have been the bait of choice. And then also, Carl says that the Gulf is rocking along with a variety of other species to catch whenever we get a break in the weather. From the beachfront going out, you can still catch sharks, bull reds, jack crevalle, king and Spanish mackerel, chumming up and chunking out cut bait. The tarpon are starting to become more prevalent on coon pops and shad. And then moving out deeper, the snapper bite's still good. Even though red snapper season is closed, you can still fill the box on beeliners. The ling has been good whenever the water is clean on bucktail jigs and around visible structure and behind the shrimp boats. And the amberjack has still been solid on deep structure, rigging live hardtails, and the grouper bite is improving on the deep drop. Once the weather breaks, it's going to get really good. So give Carl the Salty Dolphin Charters a shout for your next offshore adventure. 817-454-4488, or look them up on the web at saltydolphincharters.com.
All right, thank you so much, Caleb, for starting us off. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the CCA Upper Coast hotspots. Inshore trout around the grass wells in Trinity Bay, on the paddle tails and live shrimp under cork, and then offshore Dorado under floating structure using islanders and mahi jets.
All right, let's see what our guide Johnny Geis in the Upper Fresh region has to tell us about the bait on Lake Welsh and Lake Forth. Here's Johnny.
Hello, Rick and Bree.
What's going on, Johnny?
I like to use the most productive lures and baits that produce the most fish as well as the largest. Well, many times my customers are, most of the time we're using artificial baits, but sometimes we go to that live bait to catch the big bass and crappie. We don't have the big, large shiners here in our lakes like they do in Florida, but the Anderson Fish Farm, they're up in Lone Oak, Arkansas, came out with a bait fish called a black salty. It looks like a goldfish, but it's colored like a golden shiner or shad. Well, this hardy bait fish can also live in salt water for a couple hours, and that's why they named it the black salty. They can live weeks at a time in the fresh water when held in an aerated tank. We got the country store here on Fork and Minnebucket. They sell salties at certain times of the year, and you can also order that black salty bait fish online, and they're shipped to your door by FedEx. I like to use the large ones for the big bass and the medium size for the big white bass. So you might want to check out that Black Salty website and learn more about that great bait fish, and they can be shipped to your door, blacksalty.com. I also use bluegills to catch a big bass on Fork, and we catch the brim, the bluegills, on gray crickets and earthworms. Then we take the brim and catch the bass. The best way to present that live bait is on a Carolina rig. I use a 5/0 6/0 hook the bait from the bottom lip through the top, and we're fishing deep structure areas and fishing that bait vertically. We hold that weight right off the bottom and hold on. It's very common to catch numerous big bass in a small area when using the live brim. The live shad are the main baits for the stripers and hybrids, and also they work well for bass and catfish. It's very important to have that good aerated tank big enough to hold the bait. Take extra care when using live bait though, and don't let that fish swallow the hook, and if you do, be very careful getting it out of the fish. Consistently catching live bait, live shad is an art, but if you can handle cast net and you've got a good live bait tank, catching and using live shad can be very productive. I've had many customers catch their largest bass each year on bluegills, and it's fairly common to catch 10 to 15 big bass over 5 to 6 pounds in a day's time on the gills. This year our biggest one's been 10.5 pounds so far. For crappie, you can't beat a small minnow. You can tip a jig with the minnow and catch some big slabs. You can also dip up a freshwater grass shrimp. A lot of people don't know about them. Tip that jig with your grass shrimp and you're going to get bit with a big crappie. You can buy minnows by the pound at most local bait shops and marinas. And here's a typical size bass. We call it on the bluegill this summer. That's a pretty good one, a pretty good size bluegill that catches your big fish.
Looking good, Johnny. What else you got?
Moving on over from Lake Fork, we got some largemouth bass on Lake Welsh, and the bite is still great there. Last trip produced 25 bass, most of them coming on the topwater frog. The bass in this power plant lake, they live the year round in the warm water and with current, and we usually catch bass here by pitching a creature bait like the skunk ate in that deep hydrilla. The bass usually start spawning in December on this lake, so the fall bite starts here early. This week we found the bass already moving into the shallows on the upper end of the lake and the back end of the coves. Welsh has hydrilla covering most of the shoreline out to about 12 foot deep. The grass is starting to die off though, and these mats are beginning to break up. As the shad move closer to the shoreline and up in the creeks, the bass are starting to fatten up for the winter and get on a major topwater bite. Now's the time to get out and get your frog rod out and enjoy a good topwater bite. Our best lure this week was the Zoom horny toad, the bass assassin skunk ait, and a Ned rig. We still catching them on that Ned rig. Head up to the upper end of the creeks and coves, start covering a lot of water with the frog, maybe a small square bill crankbait, and also a lipless crankbait that helps you locate them. Once you find them, throw that frog. Shad are the bait fish that these bass are keying on, so anything shad colored works. I like those silver colors on sunny days and the white colors on the cloudy days. Once you start getting bit, you can catch more fish in the area using a light-weighted Texas rig worm or a Cinco. Weightless trick worm rig wacky style is also hard to beat in that real shallow moss. I love these topwater bites, and nothing more exciting than the big bass crushing a frog buzzed over the shallow grass. I'm nose hooking that plastic frog with a 6/0 gamakatsu hook and I'm retrieving it by pointing the rod straight at the frog. That way you don't miss many blow-ups with this setup. Here's a couple of good bass we caught this week. My friend Sam Trinkle's holding up a bag of Bass Assassin skunk apes between these two big bass, and that was the day we caught the 25. It was a lot of fun.
What a photo.
Oh man, sounds like a lot of fun, Johnny. I wish I hadn't missed that one, but maybe next time, right, Bree?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the upper fresh hotspots from Johnny's region and Lake Welsh. The bass are starting their fall transition. Look for the bait in shallows and use topwater lures and frogs. And then Lake Fork, bass is fair. The crappie and catfish are good. Use drop shot red bug worms for your best results, Bree.
All right, we're throwing a line over to your Middle Coast region next on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. But first, Dave Ferrell at the CCA Workbench is talking rigs and techniques.
Yeah.
Keeping it fresh over here.
How to keep our live baits popping.
There we go.
Get them back in the water. Get them back in the water.
Get them back in the water. We'll be right back.
They'll be happier if you let them drink.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. The American Fishing Tackle Company. Any fish, any water, since 1958. Guy Harvey, marine wildlife artist and conservationist. And CCA Texas, a leader in marine conservation.
Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 4-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
Outside is a bully. There are bears, screaming fleet-footed waters. Arrogant mountains. Goliaths. 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 And 100 other excuses to stay inside. But there are ways to deal with bullies.
CCA is the largest marine conservation group of its kind. With 70,000 members in Texas, CCA's mission is dedicated to conserve, promote, and enhance the present and future availability of our coastal resources for the benefit and enjoyment of the general public. So if you care about the health of our Texas coastal resources, join CCA today by going to their website, ccatexas.org, and help them make a difference. Use the promo code REDFISH to receive your free hat with your membership. CCA, the leader in marine conservation.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench, and rigs and techniques. Bait is what we're talking about this week with all our captains,
Yeah.
Dave. And so what do we need to know?
Well, you know, if live baits are really the bomb. I mean, lures, my lure fishing buddies are going to hate me, but you know, if you really want to catch big fish all the time, use live bait. I mean, you're going to catch more fish when you use live bait. The problem with live bait is either obtaining it and then keeping it alive once you get it. Now, to get it, you obviously can go out and buy live bait. Right. It's kind of expensive, right? Especially if you get in salt water and start buying goggle eyes and Spanish mackerels and stuff like that. If you're buying live ones, you're paying a lot of money. Right. I don't think you can buy a live Spanish mackerel, but you can buy all those, you know, live mullets and everything else, pilchards and goggle eyes. You're going to pay $50 a dozen in some places. Now, you can throw a cast net and get your own, catch your own. Good thing about the cast net is you can catch a lot of bait with it. All kinds of different baits. They make cast nets that you can catch shrimp all the way up to big mullets and stuff.
Right, pogies.
So, so you can, you know, catch a lot of bait quickly, and you can catch a lot of things. And it's a good skill to have. If you learn how to throw a cast net, that's a good skill to have. The cons are, you know, you can get live bait that isn't top quality bait because it gets meshed around in the mesh and scaled a bit and bounced around, moving from the net to the live well and whatnot. So you can, your bait's not going to be as good as if you got some others. Like if you went out and caught them on a hair hook, a sabiki rig.
Sabiki, the little for your piggy perch.
Correct, or a little gold hook.
Right.
You're catching ballyhoos or pinfish or croakers or any of those little fish. Usually when you're catching them with a little gold hook, you're going to get great baits. They're really hardy. If you don't handle them much, use a de-hooker, put them right in the live well. Don't handle them again, and they'll be a lot better off. The cons are you'll foul hook a few of them that'll bleed, and they're not really that good.
Don't put them in the live well.
Exactly, and it's hard to get them to bite sometimes because you're fishing. It's just like going fishing. Sometimes you can't get them to eat what you're giving them. You can also try traps. They make all kinds of minnow traps and pinfish traps, and these are really good because the baits you get out of these are excellent. They haven't been hooked. You put a little bit of chum or a big dough ball in there, and a bunch of baits will swim in there, and you catch them. And when you go to harvest them, this stuff is really soft.
Right.
You put them right in your bucket, and they live a long time. The good thing also is it picks the size for you. These traps, they have a certain size hole. That's the only size fish that's going to get in there. The bad thing about that is
that's the only size.
It's the only size hole that's going to get in there. So if you're worried about catching a lot of different size baits, these probably aren't the way to go. But they will catch all the fish that'll swim in that little hole, and which are it's a great thing.
Okay. So how are we going to keep them alive when we get them on the boat?
Well, there's three things that are very important when you're talking about bait fish, and that's oxygen, the temperature of the water, and the acidity. And you can control all those things. These bubblers that they have nowadays, they didn't have these when I was a kid, but you had to steal one off an air tank and mess with it and put batteries on it, and it's kind of a big pain in the butt. But now you can get these little bubblers, and they'll run on 2D batteries, and they'll keep bait alive. There's pinfish and crabs in here. I'll try to this one's a bad one. See, this is one thing about buying bait. If you go and buy a bait, that's the kind of bait you will get. Look at that poor bait.
See, he's got red on him, that's what you want to avoid, guys.
Yeah, it's got no tail. His tail's been chewed off, Right. And this guy's a little better. But even then,
look at this little guy.
But
see, his tail's been eaten off while he was in the tank.
Crab will get you too, boy.
The place wasn't feeding him. See, but he looks pretty good other than his little tail.
Yeah, and this is a great thing to put them in too, because this will keep them cool. This is one of those boxes that's insulated and will keep them cool.
A bait box.
And a bait box, and this will run for like 72 hours with 2D batteries.
What's that other one?
And you can also you can get this at Academy. This comes with the whole top and the net, and it'll go on any bucket. And this little top, will also keep your shiners or whatever you want in there alive. And again, that little bubble box will keep that aerated for hours and hours and hours. And if you want to get something that's really big time,
here we go. We're going big time now, fellas.
Yeah, if you want it,
stand back. I don't know how big time this is going to get.
This will make a little fountain. And you can put this in a cooler. You can put that in your YETI cooler. It'll do aerate 32 gallons of water. So you can put that on the side of your cooler, or go on the bottom or on the side, and you can make that thing go up or down, and even adjust the flow to soft flow or full stream.
There's the fountain of youth there, baby.
Exactly. So that's a pretty cool thing. And like I said, you want to make sure you change your water often to keep that that acidity down, because the water, when they're in there, the baits get in there, they get excited and they're urinating in there, and it makes it real acidic. A good thing to do is right when you catch your bait and you put them in a bucket of water, let them sit in there for like 5 minutes, and then change that water. Go to a second thing of water, and they'll last a lot longer. Trong told me.
You had a lot of great tips tonight. Good job.
I didn't have a tip on how not to get bit by a blue crab.
What do you think?
Maybe next time, Dave. Captain Bink Grimes in the Middle Coast region is getting real with us this week. So talk to us about the bait bite on your coast, Captain.
All right, no doubt around here the real stuff works. It's a lot easier to fool speckled trout with a real shrimp than it is with a plastic shrimp. And a dog walking super spook, she dog, or skitter walk, it imitates
finger mullet, but there's nothing like a 5-inch mullet cruising on the end of a tail hook to get a redfish going too. People just have less time these days. They want the most out of their abbreviated time on the water, and that's where live or natural baits kind of fill that void. In East Matagorda Bay, from May to August, live shrimp always outproduces soft plastic while drifting in shell and about 5 foot of water. It beats it like 10-1. We used to argue with the fish and talk, but we don't argue with them no more. That's what they want. A 3-inch crustacean under mid-coast popping cork gets as many pulls as we can for our customers. That game's going to change later in this month, and in October we'll revert back to bass assassins and down south lures while we're drifting as the days get shorter and the water gets cooler and shrimp flood the bays. And that's kind of what's happening right now. We're starting to get a little fall pattern. Shrimp are getting in the bays, and it's been a pretty good bite. This week in East Matagorda Bay, Captain Tommy Alexander released numerous trout over 5 pounds. Were caught on live shrimp and DOA shrimp under a cork. I waded reefs with top waters. We've had a lot of storms building in off the Gulf, kind of like what's coming in with Gordon right now. And we released several trout over 5 pounds, and also released one that was 31 inches. I estimated close to 9 pounds. A low barometer and the storms building in the Gulf. That's a recipe for big trout. A lot of people they worry about, is it going to rain tomorrow? Is it going to rain tomorrow? And I said, man, y'all need to get here. These fish bite when it rains like that, when there's all that low pressure in the Gulf. The upper end of West Matagorda Bay has been consistent on north winds for trout to 5 pounds over shell. All that reefs around Coon Island, the Barge, and Half Moon Reefs are holding large schools of trout on live shrimp, bass assassins, mirror lure, Little Johns, and down south lures. And Port O'Connor guide Lynn Smith said the high tides, they scattered fish in the back lakes and the bayous. He said there's been a lot of small trout under the birds in the back region of the bay, but the best trout have come right on top of the shell, on top waters on the incoming tide. Our tides are about a foot and a half above normal with all that low pressure in the Gulf. High tides this week around Freeport have made the back lakes and bayous around Bastrop and Chocolate Bay good for trout on the reefs. Live shrimp under a popping cork fished along the edges, and the drop-offs have worked well. So the bait game is still working. There's a photo there of 9-year-old Elena Pell of New Brunswick. She caught that 25-inch trout by herself with her daddy in East Matagorda Bay. Pretty cool deal there.
All right, tell me about the redfish, Bink.
Man, September's always a prime time for redfish. Guy Michael Roth from Matagorda took advantage of swollen tides this week, and he quickly caught limits of bruiser reds in West Matagorda Bay. He's been using live shrimp when available, and when not, he's throwing chunks of mullet under corks. Waders have found good fish in the West Bay while wading the south shoreline with croakers and live shrimp. They're casting to the points of those shells. Those reds are just hanging right there. Those bull redfish have begun their trek to the Gulf. Many have been found on the beachfront from Surfside to Port Aransas. All the jetties are players this year, this time of year. Surfside and Freeport are holding lots of redfish on cracked blue crabs, mullet, and big old table shrimp. Then the Port O'Connor jetties are holding lots of redfish, the same deal, in about 35 to 60 foot of water on the rocks. And same things happen in Port Aransas as well. This time of year encourages those slot redfish to school up in bunches, and you can find them along the grass line. You can find them with a wake, or you can see maybe a tern or a gull right over the top of the water, hovering over them. What they're doing, those gulls are eating those shrimp that they're pushing out of the grass. It's a pretty easy way to find them. Guy Brett Sweeney said that's what he's been doing. Black drum, a lot of elevated tides in the back lakes, sending those black drums to all those same places we're catching redfish. Guy Forrest Rudy of Matagorda said he's been working those reefs in West Matagorda Bay for 4 to 5 pound drum. Same is happening in Turtle Bay and Tres Palacios Bay on the incoming tide. And for those good drums, drum is excellent table fare if you've never eaten them. We'll go offshore to Tarpon. There have been many boats along the beachfront chasing poons lately, but there's plenty of silver kings out there in about 25 to 40 foot of water. That low pressure out there's got the Gulf kind of bumpy, but guide Will Granberry of Port O'Connor, he's been finding schools of tarpon along the jetties, taking fish to 120 pounds on live menhaden. The lure chuckers are tossing those coon pops, And this time of year, September through October, we see a lot of 90 to 140 class tarpon. And don't be surprised if you find one better than 200 pounds, like the 229. That's a pending state record that was called off Galveston Island last year.
Oh, that's a big poon. All right, thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Middle Coast region. He says inshore, the Middle Bay Reefs and East Matagorda Bay are good for waders, tossing she dogs and super spooks for trout, and then redfish are good in West Matagorda Bay against the grass line on the north shoreline on mullet and shrimps.
Rick, we have an update from CCA Texas, as they were approved to purchase additional night vision and side sonar for Texas parks and wildlife game wardens in Region 4. This night vision equipment helps wardens observe potential law violators under the dark of night, and the side sonar is used for many situations but helps the wardens locate submerged illegal gill nets. CCA Texas has funded over $1 million of state-of-the-art equipment to help level the playing field for our coastal wardens to enforce our laws and conserve for future generations.
Good job, guys.
Good job, guys. You're always doing good things.
Working together. I love it.
All right, stay with us, guys and gals. We're headed inland to the middle and lower fresh regions next. And I have to say, Rick, it's smelling pretty good in here. So it must be time to see what Chef Jacqueline is cooking up for us next. And remember, for all things fishing in Texas, visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and view and tag us on Instagram. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. CCA Star, fishing fun for giant prizes and scholarships. And Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO Offshore.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Today's power pole tip is about the drift paddle. So guys, so many times when you're out drift fishing, the boat doesn't seem to want to drift in the direction that you want it to go. So we've created the drift paddle at power pole, and it simply attaches to the back of your power pole. And by pulling a pin, you can change the angle of the paddle itself. And what this does is it gives you an extended rudder. Now, the other thing that I really like about the paddles is essentially they're like water brakes. I can slow my drift down. Or when I'm bridge fishing down in the Florida Keys and I have the wind and the tide going in different directions, more often than not, I might have a tendency to blow up my anchor rope. Well, guess what? I can put the paddles straight down, use the current to hold me on my anchor rope. The other thing that I like about the paddles is that it really slows my drift down whenever I'm fishing wrecks or structure. So by putting the paddles down, I can slow way down, giving more time in the fish zone. And that's today's Power Pole Tip of the Week. Well, I would like to welcome Chef Jacqueline to the show. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you, it smells wonderful here. You know, we were talking before the show, and I understand that you had a lot of experience in learning some of these recipes over in the Bahamas. A lot of people in Texas love going to the Bahamas. So what are we gonna do tonight, Jacqueline?
Well, today we're gonna have our baked bagged fish. And we're gonna put it on top. Actually, we're gonna serve it in a bag, and then it's gonna go on top of a coconut rice with a orange marmalade salsa.
So how are we going to do this? Or how do we get started?
Well, so what we're going to do is right now we're kind of letting this just sizzle a little bit.
I like sizzle.
And but let me show you the main ingredient here.
Okay, let's go.
So we're going to start out with our Ritz crackers.
I gotcha.
So let me tell you, when we go to the Bahamas, this is what happens. We like to cook with panko crumbs, like to make things pretty fancy over there. But when you go to the Bahamas, it doesn't always turn out that way.
Right.
Sometimes you can't find water, and sometimes you can't find panko crumbs. So
just like fish camp in Texas.
I know, exactly. But you can definitely always find Ritz crackers. So this is what we're going to start with.
And you can always find a Ziploc.
And you can always find a Ziploc. Actually, we bring them with us.
Good.
And honestly, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you this job.
So I'm going to crunch those up.
Yep, I let my kids do this, and they love doing that.
So I'm one of your kids. I love it.
You can handle that.
All right. So what kind of fish we using?
Okay, so we're using mangrove snapper.
Okay.
And I know that that's a very popular fish.
So we're going to take.
Yep.
You're a double dipper.
I am a double dipper.
So how's that work?
So what we're going to do is we're going to dip the fish in the butter, and then we're going to dip it into the Ritz crackers, and then and actually we're going to do that twice. Okay. That's what makes it so much better.
That's butter and garlic.
This is butter, garlic, and just
nice.
Ritz crackers. It's only 3 ingredients.
I gotcha.
So now here's the trick, and this is the best part.
Okay.
So simple, you can make this anywhere.
All right.
So we got our brown paper bag.
Right.
And we're going to bake this in the oven.
Right.
And in order to do that, you can actually just do this in the brown paper bag.
All right. So let's see.
We're going to dip it in the olive oil, because you always want to coat the brown paper bag a little bit.
Right.
Because butter and oil, they work really well together. So if you coat the oil in the bag.
All right. So let's put our fish in there.
Okay. Then it helps keep the butter from burning. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to have a real problem.
And then we're going to throw the breadcrumbs in there on top.
So then, once you get that in there, then you want to just put a good handful.
Okay.
And a little extra butter.
Okay. And fold it up.
And fold it up.
And put it in a toaster oven.
It's going in the oven.
All right. For the sake of TV, let's throw that in there.
Okay.
So you can do this with all different types of snapper?
Yes, you can. Now, and this is the fun part. Look, watch. Let me show you.
Okay,
I'm a professional. Ready?
Yeah, here we go.
Bam, bam, bam. Is that awesome?
Oh my gosh.
See that?
Where's my fork?
No, you actually do have to try this.
Oh. Brie, the way this smells is so good. And so tell me about the rice, Jacqueline.
The rice is actually also, because we have problems in the Bahamas with water sometimes, we use the coconuts.
So good.
So we actually cooked our rice, which is we have going over here, in the coconut water. And it's 2 cups of water to 1 cup of coconut.
Right.
And then we sauteed our onions and our veggies and the orange marmalade all together and pour it right over the top.
You did wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much. Really
Thank
good.
you.
Brie,
Yes.
I really don't want to go anywhere, so take us to another
you
region.
just stay there and eat that. That looks awesome. Your Star Char Middle Fresh region, Captain Matt Loescher, has Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, Lake Athens, and Livingston all figured out for your weekend on the water. So listen to what advice he has for us.
Man, you guys are killing me talking about like good smelling food. I'm waiting on dinner thinking about catching bait. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to go about that in the Middle Fresh region. A few good ways to utilize live bait over here. The first is going to be live caught shad. These are effective for catching every species that swims. They're absolutely the bottom of the food chain, so, everything eats them. A great way to catch them is going to be around lighted docks, before daylight or after dark with a cast net, or in the middle of the day, especially if you got a calm day, there's a little wind, you can just kind of look out across any cove, and you can find some shad near the surface. You just let your boat drift amongst them and throw your cast net for those as well. And then another option would be minnows and crickets. A great live bait for your bluegill, your crappie, catfish, bass, just about anything as well. And the great thing about them is they're a lot easier to catch. All you got to do is go to your local tackle shop, and they carry them just about everywhere around the lake, as well as a lot of the gas stations near the lake. So that's a good, easy way to get some bait. That's my favorite because I'm not much of a cast netter. I might have to get some lessons from you guys. over and moving on to talking about black bass this week, I'm going to start off at Lake Athens. It's been producing some really good fish lately in the mornings on frogs in grassy pockets. You can find those fish. And then after the sun gets up, they're holding out a little bit deeper and about 15 to 20 feet around brush piles. The best way to catch them out there is going to be a 10-inch worm. Utilize that big worm, drag it through those trees, and catch those fish. And then in the middle of the day, look for some fish coming up to the surface and schooling. They're a little bit nomadic, so they could hop up here and there, so you got to be quick. Use small shad imitating bait to catch them, and just be real quick with your cast when they come up blowing up and accurate, because they can get a little picky. You're competing against a lot of the real things, so you got to get it in there quick. And then down at Sam Rayburn, the grass is a great place to catch them as well. The bass down there are biting frogs intermittently throughout the day, but the afternoons are usually best when the wind calms down and everything kind of gets slicked off. That's when they really like that frog on the top. The Stanley Top Toad is my go-to for finding and catching those fish. You can cover a lot of water with it, and they absolutely crush it. And then throughout the day, the most consistent bite comes from staying in the creek channels and casting worms to the grass along the edge of the channel in about 4 to 8 foot. Red bug-colored worms like the Bass Assassin Tap Out are perfect for this. Put it on a light Texas rig and just toss it in that grass and drag it out, and they'll eat it. And then over at Toledo Bend, same kind of deal. You want to stay focused on the channels, but there isn't much grass over there. So you're going to want to focus primarily on the visible wood the bass are going to hold on next to the deep channel. The water level's been falling really fast over there, so they're going to be clinging to any available wood that's on the channel bank. Junebug worms and creature baits, Texas rigs are the way to go for catching these, but the real key here is just staying close to that deeper water. These fish are going to want to be on the edge of that deeper water when that water's falling so fast. Then down, changing species to white bass over at Lake Livingston, Simon Costa with Tip the Net Guide Service never fails to produce limits lately. He says they're catching some of their fish schooling under birds, but most of the time they're catching them 15 to 20 foot deep on white slab spoons near the south end of the lake. And then back up to Toledo Bend, changing it up again over to crappie. The crappie is showing pretty good spark this week. They've been biting a little better than they have been, but they're coming a little shallower. You want to look for them in 15 to 20 foot on timber that's close to the creek channel, and you can catch them using jigs like the Panfish Assassin Tiny Shad or the Cajun Lures Slim Jimmy and Electric Chicken or Monkey Milk. But if jigs aren't your thing, the live minnows we were talking about earlier are a great option for catching them. The minnows always work. Just tight line that minnow straight down.
Tell me about the photo, bub.
Yep, we got a photo there of a nice table full of slab crappie that some folks caught actually with my dad this week. And looks like they had a great time catching some big ones. If you want to get in on that action, just call us at Living the Dream Guide Service and we'll take care of you.
All right, thank you so much, Matt. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Middle Fresh region. Our guide, Matt, says black bass on Lake Athens and Sam Rayburn. They are biting frogs around the grass and the worms out deeper. At Toledo Bend, they're biting Junebug worms and crawls on shallow timber. And then white bass at Lake Livingston, they're biting spoons in 15 to 20 feet of water. Crappie on Toledo Bend are eating minnows, jigs, at around the timber in 15 to 20 feet.
Phew, you good?
Oh.
Yeah, it was a lot. All right.
That fish jacked me up,
It
man.
did, it did.
Woo.
If you're planning on live bait this weekend in the Lower Fresh region, you might want to listen up to Matt Reed with an important tip. Tell us, Matt.
Hey, Brie, how are y'all today?
We're
good. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm good. Let's get this started off. I'm going to talk about the live bait a little bit. You know, I don't fish live bait a lot, but there are a few things we need to be very aware of. If you catch your own live bait, such as minnows, shad, bluegill, or any other type of bait fish, it can only be used in the body of water that you caught it from. You can't catch it in a stock pond and transfer it over to the lake to use it for bait. And that has to do with spreading diseases and viruses and that kind of thing, and possibly getting invasive species moved into a different body of water. And bait that you purchase at a retail facility, you have to keep your receipt for proof of where that came from. That's just a little bit of a tip that might keep you from getting in a little bit of a bind on a public lake. Live minnows, man, they're awesome way to catch crappie around brush piles and even in marinas if you're landlocked and have to fish from the shore. And they usually bite them really well when they want to even bite a jig or anything like that. If you're targeting those hybrid stripers, a live bluegill is a really good way to catch those fish. It can catch some of the biggest ones in the bunch. Also, if you're catfishing for flathead catfish, a live perch, the bluegill, either that or green sunfish, the flatheads, they don't eat dead stuff. They only eat live. So that's a great way to target those big old flathead catfish. I don't use live bait at all, and I don't think you ought to use live bait when you're fishing for a type of fish you're going to release. I won't use it bass fishing because we catch and release only. But if you're intending to harvest that fish, that's a great way to catch you a limit of fish to eat. And the reason I feel that way is you just have a higher mortality rate on those fish because they eat that live bait deep. But that's a great way to catch what you need to get you a good old mess of fish for dinner.
All right, let's talk about some largemouth bass, Matt.
All right, let's get it rolling. Lake Decker outside Austin, it's been picking up with some schooling fish late in the mornings. Best way to catch those fish on a small swim bait, a fluke, or a flutter spoon. There's also some nice fish being caught along the reeds, pitching a worm or a jig back into that heavy cover. If you don't want to do that, get on the outside edge of the grass and drag a Texas rig worm or crawl worm out there, and you have a good chance to catch a good one. Lake Travis has still been really good in the morning with top waters and little bitty tiny weightless swim baits thrown along the shoreline cover. Throw it to the trees or big rocks or any type of cover on those steeper shorelines. Inks Lake has been fishing pretty well lately. Throw a frog early up against any type of lay down, any type of cover at all that's in the water. That water's so clear, those fish like to hide up under anything really shallow. Frog's a great way to catch those fish. Later in the day, get you a wacky worm and get out around the docks or the brush piles where they pulled out to get in that shade. Moving on out toward Del Rio, Lake Amistad has been fishing fair. Water levels continue to fall slow. It's at about 36-foot low right now, which is really low, but it happens fairly often. Top waters have been producing good numbers of fish early in the morning around the grass, such as the hydrilla or the pondweed. A 3-pounder has been a pretty good fish at Amistad lately. Lots of numbers, not many big ones. There's quite a few fish also being caught right now through the matted hydrilla, where it's real thick on the top, get you an ounce weight, and penetrate through that grass. Use braided line, drop a piece of plastic down in where they're in the shade down there, and that's a great way to catch those fish. There's also some out in like 25 to 30 foot of water on the rock, out on the deep ledges. Moving down to my neck of the woods, Falcon's been kicking out some really big fish lately. Best way to catch those fish on a crankbait or a Carolina rig soft plastic out on the rock structure mid-lake to the dam.
All right,
got a photo there. The customer caught his personal best with me the other day. That one was a 10.0. Clint was all smile.
Good job, Matt. What a heck of a fishing guide you are, man. I appreciate it every week. All right, let's take a look at the hot spots from the lower fresh region. Our guide Matt says Falcon Lake is fishing really well. Find the rock humps or ledges in the mid to lower part of the lake, and then throw crankbaits on Carolina soft rig plastics in 12 to 20 feet of water to get the job done.
And he obviously knows how to get the job done. That
He
fish
does.
was humongous. All right, we've got your last captain in the lower coast region next on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, but we also have some new products for y'all to sport on the water with Dave Ferrell at the CCA Workbench.
Tuna shirt or girly boot? Which is
Girly
better?
boot.
Oh,
I vote girly boot.
Tuna shirt.
Oh, shoot. We'll be back, guys.
Tuna shirt, yeah.
Yeah, guys, tuna shirt.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. YETI, built for the wild. Building Conservation Trust, CCA's National Habitat Program. StarTron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
When you've got an incredible opportunity in front of you, you want a Yamaha VMAX SHO behind you. Just ask 2017 Toyota Bassmaster Angler of the Year, Brandon Polinick. He'll tell you, if you're an aspiring angler with big dreams and a VMAX SHO, there's no limit to what you could achieve. Light, fast, fuel-efficient V6 performance and Yamaha reliability. that lets you focus on your game. Nothing pushes you like a Yamaha VMAX SHO.
And that's all we need. We need next quarter so that we can just bonus to everyone.
Yeah? Stop working right now! Look outside. Is this spreadsheet weather? No, it's not. This is fishing weather. So stop clicking, get out there, and catch a bass. Stop what you're doing and start fishing Rapala Ripstop.
Thanks for tuning in to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes as well as special segments right on our homepage. Just head to TexasInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up.
So Dave, we're here at the CCA workbench and we're talking
Yes,
about
sir.
new products, and we got them tonight.
Yes, sir. Right off the bat, we've got, this is a really cool product called the Caddy Can. And, you know, refuse is a big problem on the boat. You got a lot of wind and, you know, a bunch of guys eating sandwiches and wrappers and Doritos packages and all that stuff. Plastic water bottles everywhere. So, you know, the boat can get really messed up. So if you have, you know, we try to hang plastic bags from stuff, and it always rips off when we start going from one place to the other, and really not a really good solution. But this really is the Caddy Can. For every place you want to keep tidy, you can put one of these things, and they work really great. They're made out of 600 denier nylon. You don't have to have a tool to put them on. They use really heavy-duty Velcro to attach to your boat.
To your tower, you can attach them to anyway.
I put them on my stool on the front of my boat. Or it's
Right.
already on my boat, and they also have a strap. Actually, if you don't want to use the Velcro ends, you can have a strap and hang it.
Right.
You know, it has a removable liner. You can take that liner out, and it collapses obviously it collapses very small, this whole package.
But you can see how big that is.
Yeah, it's a big line. This is the normal one. They also make a junior size. But this is, you know, you can put all your garbage in there, seal it up, and take off and go to a place and dump it out. This is washable. Just a really cool thing to have.
Come in two sizes.
Yeah, they got little multi-purpose little pockets around on the outside, so you can put stuff in there if you want to.
And the cool part is you don't have to unzip it, guys.
Correct.
You can simply just push your bottle in there and it won't come back
I
out.
filled mine full of lemonade cans the other day. So
Nice.
There you go.
Good job. Where do you go to find one? caddycan.com?
Yes, sir.
All right.
You know what else we have? We have some extra tough Salmon Sisters boots. These are very nice. They're the women's 12-inch legacy boot. Extra Tough makes great stuff. I've got some of their stuff, but this is the Salmon Sisters logos and little designs that they put on there. It's original design by those two young Alaskan ladies up there. For every pair that they sell, the Salmon Sisters give a can of Alaskan wild salmon to the Alaska Food Bank. So that's one of the reasons why we want to have them on here. You know.
So these boots are made for walking,
and they're
also made for feeding.
Made for feeding people.
I love
Oil,
it.
acid, chemical resistant, 100% waterproof, slip resistant. Obviously, they're made for being on the boat. Exclusive liner prints from the sisters there, and you know, just a great boot. You know, they're designed for the lady's foot.
Yeah.
You know, and an ankle a fit.
You could probably find them at your retailer, if not at Academy, but I'm sure Academy's carrying them.
I think that Brie would kill you for those, but they're not her size.
Well, we're going to give some to Brie, maybe. She's nice.
She really wants
And our
some
friend
bad.
Guy Harvey always...
This is the Guy Harvey Bluefin Tuna Pro UVX shirt. You know, it's a very nice shirt. It's got the nice tuna logo on there and the tuna print. Antimicrobial, and moisture wicking. Just a beautiful shirt. He does great work. This stuff, you don't feel it, you know.
Right.
And it's also my favorite color for offshore is the white. I like the white on the top because too many colors is too hot for me.
So what's it for the sun? What's it?
30 plus.
30 plus.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yep.
Good job, Guy. And obviously we can find these
GuyHarvey.com
as well as in your retailers.
Yep, and also, you know, a little bit of Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation gets a little bit of money every time he sells
you
one of
buy
these.
something.
So
they donate money back.
That's always helping as well.
All right, Dave, good job. Bree, we got one last region.
Yes, we do, and those girly boots I certainly have my
Girly
eye
boots.
on. Last but certainly not least, we have our Lower Coast Region Captain, Chad Kinney, with all of the inshore and offshore bait know-how. So, Chad, why don't you enlighten us?
Tell you what, got some good reports here. Got Baffin Bays turned back on for trout. Some big bull redfish up in there. Offshore state water continues to be really good. Fishing's great with plenty of kingfish moving all around from jetties on out. And then out deeper, the shrimp boats are still producing some good blackfin tuna, and some billfish are actually moving in there in the mix. So talking about some bait here, bait's an extremely important part of any fishing excursion. You know, whether you're fishing offshore or in the bay, you need to know what they're biting on and where to get the best bait. So the key on that stuff. So inshore fish, you know, they'll change seasonally down here on the lower coast. They'll start like shrimp lots of times are really good, February, March, stuff like that. Into May, we start moving into croakers and stuff like that, and croakers are still working good now. And the piggies will start showing up. Not the pinfish, but the true piggies, and they'll work out really good here now through about October or so throughout the year. And offshore, also, it's best to get if you're getting trolling stuff, you know, fresh ballyhoos, the best stuff you can get for trolling. Or if you get some stuff brought in, make sure they're good and fresh and they've been brined right and everything else like that. And get plenty of sardines or squid or fresh bait off the local shrimp boats or anything else for snapper like that's the best way to do it. Best thing to do is I recommend, guys, buy locally anywhere you go, which you can get that. Local shrimp boats, local this. We got our own boats at our store. That's why we did it, so we can control our bait. The reason for that, you go from different areas of this lower coast, and there's different salinity levels and stuff like that. So we get transportation issues or different water qualities, you know, kind of have bad results with that. And the fresh stuff you can get is the best. And if you're using your boat there, or if you're in your truck and you have your tank and stuff like that, incorporate some oxygen and diffuser on there. And what that helps to do actually is get all the ammonia out of the water pretty much to help your bait survive a lot better on that. So moving over to bait fishing, like I said, Baffin Bay, got some great reports. I talked to Connor and Hubba Reynolds with the Reynolds Fishing Company, and these guys fish down here in Mansfield with me, and they do up there in Baffin. They live there their whole life. So they got some big bull reds that have been showing up in Baffin around the East Clayburgh Point. Trout are also good on the shoreline and the sand pockets, and also off the rocks and the drop-offs there. Live piggies, like I said, they're working really good. Live croakers working really well. And the piggies, like I said, definitely start turning on now towards the end of the season because we're starting to catch them in our boats, which means the fish are feeding on them, and you'll see the results on that. Rig this stuff up with the chatter weight and about 24 to 30 inches of fluorocarbon leader, about 25 to 40 pounds. Works best like that. The baits can get bigger during this time of year, so at least use a 5 to 7-knot tail hook on that. And you got to check this picture of this Connor Reynolds with a 53-inch bull red there.
Oh, man, what a stud redfish.
Yeah, what a tank. So they're there and they're on. If you just want to go, y'all contact me and I can put you in contact with those guys. So anyhow, moving over to the offshore, state water snapper, you know, it's continuing to be good down here. Producing really well. And the blue water's starting to move in closer, so water clarity is even good up on the beach and stuff like that. And those billfish, the pelagics, they're following the color changes and currents and stuff. So like I said, state water snapper, it's been good. And the best thing about this right now is you can get lighter the better, and you can actually start drifting and stuff like that. So lighter the better, I mean, by get some jigs out there, use a 1 ounce, maybe like even a 2 ounce max, and also free line some live bait. Like get some live piggies or croaker. That stuff works great out there. If you use that stuff, we've been using it the last few years. I've been messing with it and try like a 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce Carolina rig, egg weight up on top of there. Use a 60, 80 pound fluorocarbon with like a 5 to 7 ounce VMC circle hook on that stuff. Just kind of free line down there through the water column. They'll take off with it and just click it over, and you'll get some really good suspended fish on that stuff. And if you're using some frozen bait, that's definitely a good choice. Use some cigar minnows. Or if you also, like I said, local baits, y'all come down to Port Mansfield or give me a call. We got lots of stuff. We'll catch a croaker and menhaden and fresh mullet and stuff like that right off the boat. Got a picture here of a nice good red snapper caught here in state waters.
All right. What else you got for us offshore?
Offshore, yeah, moving to blackfin tuna and wahoo are out there, 200 to 400 foot range. Try your squid chains with cedar plug and a wahoo, and Rapala divers definitely on the wahoo, 20 to 40 foot divers there with wire leader. And when you're getting these, get a bite and get everything else, especially on that wire leader, make sure you inspect that leader after every catch and stuff like that, because those wahoo will kink it, even if they miss it or break off. You get a kink in there, it'll pop off quick. And also make sure when you're gaffing these wahoo especially, make sure you go straight to your YETI cooler. I got a 350 Tundra on my boat. We have one guy opening it up, a gaff man, the angler, straight into it, let him settle down. It'll save you from slipping, hurting, or getting hooked up like that. And then the billfish will start showing up it's actually some pretty good numbers still out deep also, but they're actually showing up a little bit shallower too. We were out there today, we were in 250, 300 foot of water chasing some tuna, and we had one hit a cedar plug on a dang a teaser on the back there, and about 200-pound blue marlin on there.
Ugh.
So the fishing's turning on, and I see it getting better here through the month of September, and in October it's going to be going really good too.
All right, well, thank you so much, Chad. Great report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower coast hotspots. Chad says inshore, Baffin Bay is turned back on for trout and big bull reds. And then offshore, state water snapper fishing is great with plenty of kingfish out deep. The shrimp boats are producing tunas and some billfish in the mix. How crazy is that, Dave?
That's crazy.
That they got, behind a shrimp bowl you could have a billfish?
Well, I've never heard of that.
Well, now you have.
Never
You've
heard
heard of
of it.
everything.
Never
Well,
heard
in
of it.
Texas, anything's possible.
I reckon so.
What's your
have a quick
question?
question.
They
So-
catch yellowtails up there behind them, so
Yeah.
All
I
right,
mean,
my
yellowfin.
question doesn't
What's your
matter,
question?
It's fine. So what's your favorite way to catch bait? I know for different species it depends.
Sabikis.
Sabiki, really?
Yeah, and
I just thought-
a little trick I was telling
I like
Dave
sabiki.
is sometimes
I
to
love
tip
bait
the sabiki, you'll catch a piggy perch, one or two, and then they stop biting. So we tip them, we take a gulp shrimp, cut it in little pieces, tip each one of the hook, throw it in, boom, 5 at a time.
You mean gulp.
Gulp.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning
5 at
in.
a
We'll
time.
see you next week.
Bye, guys.